Hi everybody. Our main topic today is telephoning, language and skills. Now the first thing we need to know is, why is telephoning important? Of course telephoning is important because when you want to make a telephone call, you are taking up someone else's time in addition to your own time. That's why it is important that before you call, you ask yourself whether your call is necessary and appropriate. So here are some questions you should ask yourself before calling someone. So you want first to see if perhaps an email message may serve the intended purpose. So would it take less time to resolve the matter or look up the information that you need yourself? Now, if you need to speak to someone you know is busy, send an email message to schedule the phone call. Again, that would make it sound more professional. Now, when starting a telephone conversation, or especially when taking a call, you have different options. So I'll give you at least three options to choose from. So option one is, for example, when you say, TravelLink, Sarah Mills speaking, how can I help you? Now here we have, of course, when you look at the structure of option one, you have the company name, you have your name, of course, you identify yourself, people would like to know to whom they are speaking, and then you have the greeting form. Now, when it comes to option two, now look how option two is different from option one. We don't say, TravelLink, Sarah Mills speaking, how can I help you? Now, what we do is say, TravelLink, Sarah Mills speaking. So what have we done? We've included the name of the company and your name, and we have eliminated the greeting. Now, you are advised to use the first one because it sounds more welcoming. I mean, although you don't see the person you're talking to, but people feel the way you feel about them at the end of the line. So it is essential to include that greeting statement. Now, option three, you may simply say, hello, good morning, or good afternoon, and then you give the name of the company. So this one, when you say hello, good morning, we tend to use it in a more informal context. That's quite important. Now that's for taking calls. Now when making calls, of course, we have again two contexts. We have a formal context and we have an informal context. When you say hello, this is John from company X, that's formal. Or when you say hello, this is John from TravelLink, as an example, that's a very formal context. Now, if you find yourself in a familiar, more suitable for personal conversations, of course, when you're talking to a friend or someone you've been doing business with, you don't say hello. This is, of course, this is where we use expressions like, hi, it's John from TravelLink, or hi, it's Alan. As soon as you mention your name, no more need for any further formalities. Asking for somebody, you call and then you want to ask for someone. So the formal version would be, may I speak to, and then you give the name of the person, please. Remember, English is a very polite language, and of course the use of the word please is very essential. Or you can say simply, you can start by using the expression of politeness. Please, could I speak to John, for example, or Mr. Alex? Or in a more familiar context, you would say, hey, is Fred there? Or can I speak to Fred, please? People would understand from the very beginning that, of course, you know the person, and there are elements of high familiarity between you and the person you would like to speak to. Now, when answering the phone and confirming that you are speaking, you confirm, say, hello, is that Paul Stevens? Yes, speaking. So there you're confirming that you are speaking. Yes, speaking. And when it comes to reasons for calling, of course, there are many expressions from which you can choose. You can say, I'm calling about, and then you specify your subject. Or you can say, I'm calling to do this. Or could you tell me or I was wondering if you could tell me whatever, and then you give us your subject matter, or you can simply say, could you tell me? Now, when you say, I was wondering if you could help me, I have a problem, I have a question, there you tend to be more, you have high chances of having a positive response from the person you're calling. Or you can simply say, I just wanted to ask, or just a quick question, especially when you're talking to someone who's very busy, you want to explain to the person that yes, you are aware of how busy he is or she is, and you use expressions like just a quick word, or just a quick one, and then you hit with your query. These are, of course, examples to choose from when it comes to reasons for calling. Small talk is very calm. You're talking to people you know, and say, hi David, hi Richard, hi whatever. How are you? It's nice to hear from you, and how are things? These are examples of what we call icebreakers. We use them at the beginning of the conversation, really to prepare or pave the way for more serious talk. It is small talk which paves the way for more further serious talk. How are you getting on with? The person feels that you actually care about the person, and his or her life, his or her personal problems mean something to you, and that's quite essential in communication. Now, when you want to ask to be called back, you want to leave or take a message, so we're doing three things here. Let's start by taking a message. Now, when you want to take a message, of course, there are different expressions you can choose from. Things like, I'm sorry, but John isn't at his desk right now. Can I have a message? Or can I take a message? Or you can say, Mr. Black, for example, is in a meeting. Would you like me to take a message? So these are expressions you choose from when you want to take a message. Or you can use the usual classical expression. We say, I'm afraid Mrs. Mills is away this weekend. And would you like to leave a message? So the use of he, she is unavailable at the moment. Can I take a message? It is feasible, but it is less used because it lacks in tact. And tact in business communication is very important. Now, for example, when you say, I'm afraid, miss, whatever, that sounds very formal, but still, you allow some space for the growth of personal communication between you and the person you're talking to. Now, if you want to ask the caller to call back, you simply say, I'm afraid he is or she is busy right now. Would you mind calling back later? So that's what it is about. Now, asking to leave a message, you have two expressions to choose from. I'm giving you the essential stuff. For example, would you mind taking a message? Or I'd like to leave a message. As you may notice, the first expression would be more appropriate in a more formal context. Now, leaving a message. I'll give you examples again of expressions you can choose from. You can simply say, please tell, and then you give the name of the person for whom you want to leave a message. Please tell Mr. X that, or please tell, or let Mr. X, and you give the name, know that. Or I called, I need to discuss this matter with him or her. Or you can simply say, I'd like to rearrange a meeting, appointment or date, or you want to schedule, whatever. You can always use expressions like, please ask him or her, and of course you have to give the name. It sounds a little bit inappropriate when you use the pronouns like ask him or ask her. So it is preferable to use names. And if it is about an official title, use titles, Mr., Doctor, President, whatever. You can always simply say, please ask him or her, and of course you give the name, to contact me about, and then you specify the subject matter, why you call in, why you want the person to call back. And finally, of course, you have to give your telephone or your mobile number, and they say, yes, my telephone or mobile number is as follows. Now, when passing on a message, of course, you would use expressions like, I will tell him, or you called. This is, you're passing on messages. You've got, it comes like a form of promise, which I will pass that on to him or her, and the name is essential, or I will let Mr. or Mrs. know, and I'll make sure. Now this is very reassuring. We use the, I'll make sure he or she gets your message. That's very reassuring. Okay. Now, calling back, famous expressions related to calling back is, okay, I'll call back later, or I'll try again. I'll try again tomorrow. As you may have noticed, the second expression shows more patience, and that is needed in business. Spelling and repeating. Now, sometimes you don't catch the whole thing, and you have to make sure you got the right information to pass on messages, to take messages, and you use expressions like, I'm sorry, I didn't catch that, or I'm sorry, could you repeat that please, or I'm sorry, I can't hear you, could you please speak up a little, or you can simply say, would you mind speaking a little slower if the person may happen to have a strange or a different accent to what you're used to, then you would like to ask the person to speak in a slower manner. Now, asking for the name of the company. So here are the expressions you would like to use. I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name, or could you please repeat your name, or what was the name of the company, please? Or you can simply say, can I just check your name? I'll spell it. And then this is where you have to go through the spelling. Eh? That's, again, very useful. Now, when asking someone if he is available, you can choose between the following expressions. You can simply say, when will he be back? Or when will he be available? The second expression, I would go for the second expression, which says, when is a good time? When is a good time to call? You see, you leave it open and you don't put pressure on that person to find time to call you back. Or maybe you want to call back, but you want for that person to leave, to open up availabilities for you. It's more diplomatic, of course. Now, asking somebody if they can call back later, I would simply say, I'm a little busy at the moment. Would you mind calling back later? Or, I'm afraid I can't talk right now. Would you please call me back later? Could I? No, there was a could I call you back later? I'm a bit tied up right now. The people tend to use the last expression when they find themselves in a context where availability is limited, and then they don't want to commit themselves to giving you time and place of when they may call back. So that's quite the case of CEOs, presidents, senior managers, and so on and so forth. Busy people. Now, asking someone to hold, that's quite frequent in telephone and language. And so, wait a moment, please. Always make sure that the word please figures. And I mean, it's there. It's a sign of politeness. I'll just put you on hold for a moment. Now, when you want to ask to be connected, of course, you can say, could you please put me through? That's very important. Could you please put me through? And then you give the name of the person and the department. Sometimes people have extension numbers. In this case, you would have to give one. Could you please connect me with, and then you give the department and the name. Connecting someone, just a moment. I'll put you through. One moment, please. I'll connect you through. Now, if you compare the two expressions, you notice that the second is more formal. Just a moment, I'll put you through. We don't see the word please, and then people freak out. You know, you don't use the word please. They know, hey, we're talking about a culture shock. People are used to hearing the word very frequently in the conversation. Now, when you want to say that the line is busy, of course, you can use the expressions like, I'm afraid the line is busy, or I'm afraid his phone or her phone is engaged. And I always prefer to use full names. I mean, at least first name. We say, I'm afraid John's phone is engaged, or I'm afraid her, we don't say her, but you say, I'm afraid Lydia's phone is engaged. and thank you very much indeed.